We are live. Mike, welcome back to the Jersey Boys podcast. How's everything going?
Steven, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight with you. I'm always grateful to be on the podcast and looking forward to breaking down this Hamburg card. Got some action-packed fights on our hands.
Yeah, just a quick overall view of the card. We were talking for about 10 minutes off the air before we came on. I'm a big fan of this card. Really like the card. Have a couple strong leans. And I think there's going to be a lot of finishes personally. So what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll see Draftkings points galore here. If you look at the fight doesn't go the distance props on bestfightodds.com, you'll notice real quick that this card, the bookies expect a lot of finishes. So I'm ready.
All right, yeah, let's get into this.
It's a Sunday card too, and
it is.
Fights start at 10:30 in the morning, folks. If you're on the East Coast.
Yeah, this is like football season for those West Coast people, right? They get that 10 o'clock game in the morning.
I love it.
I love it. Lots of bets. 13 bets to make here if you want to. So the first fight, we have Damian Stacey, and you said it best off the air. I'm going to try again. Pingyuan Lee, I believe his name is.
Pingyuan Liu. Yep.
Yeah. So this fight is a mid-tier fight. You got Stacey, who's 8.2K. You have Pingyuan, who we're just going to call him Pingyuan. We're going to call him 8K here on Draftkings. We know a whole lot more about Stacey. Obviously, he's got a bunch of fights in the UFC. He's 2-3 in the UFC. His last 4 wins in the UFC and out of the UFC have all been by submission. So I believe that this could be one of those fights that does end early. If you look at tape on Pingyuan, I found one tape. I found some highlights. It wasn't easy. And again, it's not easy to kind of take highlights and break down film on it. You're only going to see, literally the finishes and the things that they want you to see. But it looks like he's got a strong right hand, has a power punch. He kind of really does a good job of figuring out when you're going to throw a power punch, ducks under, and kind of comes over the top with a power punch. I saw that on one of the films. He's got pretty good BJJ. He's riding an 8-fight win streak. He did have a canceled fight. He was supposed to fight Bharat Kandare.
Yep, Indian fighter,
who's actually not very good. He's been beat up twice, I believe.
Song Yadong took him out.
Yeah. And in his last 9 fights, another reason why I think this is going to finish early, in his last 9 fights, he's got 4 KOs, 4 subs. He actually lost 1 by sub and 1 decision. So I can see this fight going very similarly to the way that the Brian Kelleher-Stacey fight went. I think that Pingyuan is going to come after Stacey, very similar to the way that Brian Kelleher did. But Mike, what do you think about this fight?
Yeah. Well, first of all, this Pingyuan looks like a wrecking ball out there. I've seen him landing takedowns. He's got an impressive highlight reel. What also was captivating to me was you don't know his age. Sherdog and Tapology, there are some discrepancies between his professional record, his amateur record. Everything looks all screwed up as far as that goes. But this kid is explosive. And to be honest, when Stacey fought Kelleher, I thought that Kelleher really pounded him. And I wonder how he's going to come back after that, especially he lost to Munoz before that as well.
Yes.
Stacey, for the most part, has been a durable fighter. He took a lot of punishment from Kelleher through the 3 rounds and was finished near the end of the 3rd round. He's a serviceable fighter, but I'm going with the new kid on the block here, the unknown Pingyuan Liu. That's my pick.
Yeah, I like Pingyuan, and I also like him on DraftKings because, again, in that mid-tier, you're getting a guy at 8K who I think can get a finish. So I like him in cash. And I also like him as a GPP option. I think Stacey's just a GPP option in this, only because I think that Pingyuan's going to be better on the feet, especially like we just both mentioned. That Kelleher fight probably took a lot out of him. All right, so our next fight up here is Jeremy Kimball versus Darko Stoic. And again, I'm a little iffy with the film that I was able to watch on Stoic. I watched the two fights with Dion Staring, I believe his name is. He in his last he's 12-1 Stoic. He's got an 8-fight win streak. 6 of them finished. The only 2 fights that didn't finish were against this guy Dion Staring. So that's the fight that I really wanted to watch. I wanted to see why it didn't finish. It was the Final Fight Championship. He beat him the first time and then rematched him. Basically, the guy didn't think that he beat him the first time, so they did a rematch. But he has good boxing. Both decision fights against this guy Staring, good low kicks. Counter left hook was pretty impressive. I don't know. I'm not sold on Stoic being such a big favorite in this fight. I do agree with the line, and again, you just mentioned it. There's a lot of lines here that look like these fights are going to finish, and this is one of those fights. So I do think that this fight is going to finish. But Kimball he's not bad. He actually gave Dominic Reyes some problems early in that fight. He got himself caught, which again, Dominic Reyes I think has proved to be a pretty good fighter, especially on the ground.
Yeah.
But Kimball took him down, was on top of him. These guys are very evenly matched, so I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you, with the line. Kimball does have a UFC win. He's 1-2 in the UFC. All 3 fights have ended early. He did have a loss early in his career to Chris Camozzi, which I was a little surprised by because I don't have a very high opinion of him. But Mike, what do you think about this?
Yeah. Well, Darko Stoic, he is Mirko Cro Cop's protege. If you watch some videos on YouTube and wherever you can find some film on him, he's constantly around Cro Cop, and he is massive. One thing we should mention is that he's dropping down from heavyweight to light heavyweight for this fight, and I want to see what he looks like on the scale before I move forward with my pick here. He does shoot for takedowns, and he throws bombs. Very wild puncher. Kimball, he's had a run of bad luck as far as I'm concerned. He's fought some tough guys. This is a low-level heavyweight fight as far as I'm concerned, despite Stoic's 12-1 record. You might be better off taking Kimball here in DraftKings, to be honest. I would not be surprised if we see an upset. You might want to roll the dice here, but too early for me to make a call on this fight. I'll go with Kimball.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I don't know who I'm going to pick to win. I just think from a DraftKings perspective, this fight is going to finish.
Yeah.
So I think for the most part, you want to play it both ways. But at 6.9K, I just don't know if the minus 275 on Darko on that betting line is warranted for a guy who hasn't fought in the UFC. And again, I haven't found a ton of film on him.
And he's dropping from heavyweight.
Yeah, he is.
And he's listed as 6 foot, but he looks shorter than that to me.
Yeah, I do. I have them both very similar in terms of height and reach.
Mm-hmm.
But and Kimball's aggressive. That's why I think this fight is going to end early because he's aggressive. But again, at 6.9K, I'm willing to take a shot on him at least 1 or 2 GPP lineups. Excellent. So next fight is a fight that was rebooked, right? This is Davy Grant and Manny Bermudez. I believe it was supposed to be in May sometime. I have written down that Grant had staph infection, and that's why this fight was.
He pulled out last minute. Yep.
Yeah, it was like the day or day before of. Bermudez is young. He's only 23 years old. He's 12-0. 9 of those wins have been by sub. He's a purple belt BJJ, which I was actually surprised because I just figured he would have a higher belt, maybe a black belt already. But one knockout, 2 decisions. If you watch his fight with Albert Morales within the first, I believe, 10 or 15 seconds, caught him with a big right hand. And Bermudez just basically went right for that takedown, went right at his ankles. I don't think he's comfortable on the feet. Davy Grant is definitely going to have the advantage on the feet. So again, he has a path to victory if he can keep it on the feet. I just don't think he can. So I think this is a GPP fight. I think Manny Bermudez is going to be able to get a takedown. I think maybe the sub prop. I don't know if there's even a line out yet for the sub prop. But Bermudez by sub. If you can get a plus number on that, it makes for a great play. I don't think you'll get a plus number on it, but he also has a really long reach for a guy who, is fighting at 135. He has a 71.5-inch reach. So with those long arms, he's able to lock in those submissions, rear naked chokes, darces, whatever it is that he's trying to do. But I think this is a clear stylistic fight where Bermudez is better on the ground and Grant is better on his feet. Mike, what do you think about this?
Yeah. One thing to mention, Davy Grant actually has a victory over Marlon Vera. That was a pretty impressive feat. I'm looking at Bermudez by submission is actually plus 140 right now.
That's a great prop if you like to play props.
It dropped from plus 175 where it opened. A few things to note. Bermudez, I want to know how is he going to get this fight to the ground? Somehow he ends up securing lots of triangles, and Davy Grant is a very aggressive fighter, so maybe he'll bring the fight to Bermudez and make it easy for Bermudez to find his way to securing that triangle. One thing that when I was watching tape on this fight, do you remember the Gabriel Benitez Humberto Bandone fight where Bandone was securing an armbar and Benitez just fought right through it aggressively and knocked Bandone out? I could
Is that where he dropped him on his head?
Yes, I could see something like that happening in this fight if Bermudez isn't able to lock something up and make Grant tap quick, because Grant's from Europe. He is he's going to have some fans behind him, although I realize he's not from Germany. If you see Bermudez's Twitter account, he's caught up in the moment. He said something like, "I can't believe I'm getting on a plane to go to Europe to fight. This is like my wildest dream." So I'm concerned about Bermudez here. I like his price in Draftkings, to be honest. When you look at the top tier, you've got Roberts, Stoic, and then Bermudez at 9,200. So. I'm going to go with Bermudez here, to be honest, but I wouldn't be surprised if Davy Grant pulls off an upset.
Yeah, I just wrote my article today, which Newsom, it'll be on Newsom's website. And, Newsom's one of my partners at Newsom_MMA. And Davy Grant, I actually put both guys in the article because I think this fight is going to finish. So I don't disagree with you, but I think there's a clear advantage for Grant on the feet. And like you started out saying, if Bermudez can't get this fight down to the ground, which again, once he gets it down there, he moves effortlessly from one sub attempt, from the, grabbing an arm, snatching a neck. Like he moves effortlessly into his sub attempts. But
fight doesn't go the distance is minus 195 right now.
I like that line.
So
I like that line.
It should end pretty quickly.
Yeah. Now, Mike, the next fight I'm going to introduce, and then I'm not going to break anything down because I kind of want to get your take before I say anything. I've been kind of breaking this one down on Twitter all day. I really like this fight. Justin Ledet and Alexander Rakic. So Justin Ledet is 8.3K on DraftKings. He's minus 125. Again, these lines may have changed. I wrote these lines down about 5 or 6 hours ago. Alexander Rakic is 7.9K and plus 105. So, Mike, I'll throw it to you to break it down, and then I'll pick up.
I'm seeing a lot of people out there in the Twitter land on Rakic, Alexander Rakic. Ledet comes in. We know his boxing shines. He's 9-0. Is he coming off of a steroid test? A positive? Was he flagged at all or no?
Justin Ledet?
Yeah, or no?
Not that I know of.
Okay, all right.
He hasn't fought in about a year, but not that I know of.
Okay. I know he's dropping down from heavyweight, and he typically weighs in anywhere between 230 and 240. So this is a situation where he's coming down in weight, and Rakic is a is a big guy as well, 6'4". He's filled out. Should be interesting to watch him make 205 pounds as well. I watched the Barroso fight. I watched some take on Rakic. He throws those leg kicks. He's also comfortable in the pocket, which I like to see. I think Ledet's ground game when he beat Godbeer, I mean, come on. Godbeer, he's one of the lowest level heavyweights on the roster, so I didn't put too much stock into that. My pick what is Racic's 7,900.
7.9K,
yeah, he's going to be very popular, and I believe he's worth that price. I'm going with the underdog here. What's your take on it, Steve?
That's kind of what I expected you to say, because I think that's what's been popular on Twitter. And again, you're saying the same thing. I like Ledet, and I like Ledet. I like him. I don't like him to finish this fight. This is one of the fights I don't think is going to finish. I think this is going to be two guys staying on the feet and just boxing it out using their striking skills.
You think it's going to be a low output
fight? I think it's going to be one of those low output fights that basically, it may even be a split decision. But I think Ledet's jab is just he uses a lot of feints. His jab is just so good. Too. Yeah, he's got a good chin on him. And again, he's fought at heavyweight. That hasn't been an issue for him. He's 9-0. I believe one of his first fights, not in the UFC, but one of his first fights, he fought at 205. And again, this is a guy who's a college basketball player. Played D2 ball, just like myself. I was a college basketball player, played D2 basketball. So I kind of like Ledet for all those reasons. He moves well. These guys are both 6'4". Ledet's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. And again, when he throws that jab, it's hard, it's stiff, it's straight. And I think that's going to keep distance. I do agree that Rakic does throw those low kicks, which usually is what you can get with a boxer. If you can take away that lead leg, it definitely takes something off the punches. But I just don't think that.
May I chime in for 1 sec?
Yeah.
In April of 2017, Ledet accepted a 4-month USADA suspension due to a tainted supplement that his multivitamins had quote unquote steroids on them. Just throwing it out there. And now he's dropping from heavyweight to light heavyweight. So just take that into consideration.
Now, again, if you look at him when he fought at, I think he weighed in like you said, 230, 240. I think the last one he was actually 244.5. I have written down. But he looked a little loose. He looked a little chunky. I think he can definitely, lose some of that weight. And again, he took the 4 months off. Now you're starting to concern me now that you're telling me that.
It's fact. But the other thing is, Ledet's a winner. He pushes the pace, and his fight IQ seems pretty high when he's in there. He knows what he's doing. He's good at keeping the distance. He works that jab. And I'm wondering, are his leg kicks going to be a difference here, or when he winds up to throw these leg kicks, is that going to be an opportunity for Ledet to close the distance and get there before that leg kick lands? We'll see. Yeah, that's why the fight's so closely lined. Also, I mean, Rakic is still he's a plus 105. Dog, but he opened at plus 145.
I see this going to decision. So it's a mid-tier fight. I don't think it's not. I mean, you can play at GPP, but I see it going to decision. I really like Ledet to just kind of outpoint him. I actually didn't even. Go ahead.
I was going to say Vegas thinks that it is going to decision. Minus 125. Fight goes to a decision.
Yeah, so that's the favorite there. Which just about every other fight on this card. I think is basically favored to finish. I don't know if there's more than 2 or 3 fights that are not favored to go to decision. So favored to finish. All right, let's move on. We've already talked about that way too much. And at least we're on the opposite ends of something.
Yeah, that's true.
So the next fight is, I think, a total crapshoot. I just don't know what's going to happen in this fight. Ned Narimani versus Khalid Taha. So Ned is 9.1K. Taha is 7.1K. And these guys are both making their UFC debut, so it's a little difficult for me at least, when I was watching film, to gauge the level of competition. Ned hasn't fought in over a year. On his record, he has a few subs, a few KOs, and a few decisions. And one of the things I noticed when I watched him, I just expect Ned to be bigger, just physically bigger than Taha is. He's only I think an inch height advantage, a couple years, 6-year age difference. He's 31 years old. But I just expect him to be a bigger guy, and maybe he may have to cut more, so he may look bigger on fight night. I think this is the GPP fight. I don't think it's a cash fight because, again, I haven't seen enough film that I'm comfortable playing this in cash. But Mike, what do you think about this fight? There's a lot of finishes on these guys' records too.
Yeah. You know what's funny? If you look at Khalid's YouTube, when you watch tape, there's a highlight video out there that has it's got subtitles on it, and it says that Khalid is the best fighter that there has ever been, and that there ever will be. I don't know who made that, but props to them. So he's Khalid's 12-1, right? And man, I don't like what Tapology has done with all these drop-down menus, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I'm looking at his how much he weighed in. There are a few fights where he did weigh in at 135, and it looks like he made the climb up to 145 recently, like in the past year and a half. Now Romani has some impressive wins. He is a very dynamic striker, but also can go to the ground if he has to. He was supposed to get into an amazing fight with Nasrat, and that actually got canceled on the day of because Nasrat had his eye infection, and he was coming up to 155. Both guys were coming out of their natural weight class to fight up up a weight class. But the Narimani line, I believe, is right around minus 250, minus 275. You don't know what you're getting out of this kid, Taha. He might bring some scrambling to the table. This might be a very exciting fight. When I look at the tape, these guys are action fighters, and you definitely want to have that when it comes to DraftKings. And when I try to construct my lineups, I want a healthy dose of action fighters as well as fighters who can potentially get the knockout or get the early finish. So I may have some shares of Taha out there, but Narimani, there are levels to this game, and he's got pretty high fight IQ also, so that's something to consider as well. So I'm going with Narimani here, but I would not be surprised if this Taha kid surprises us.
I also like that Taha, I believe, is from Germany, or either was born in Germany or trains in Germany, but he's definitely a local kid.
Yep.
Take that for what it's worth. I just think that there's not enough for me to really play. I mean, I won't touch this in cash, but I wouldn't mind playing Taha and GPPs. And I think you got to play both, depending on how many GPP lines you want to play. Taha is 12-1. 11 of them have finished, most by KO. So
yeah, and he's got very impressive ground and pound.
Yeah, he does.
The highlights I saw, the refs were just letting this guy tee off on people on the ground. It was pretty impressive.
Now our next fight here, I have a very distinct view of this fight, so I'm gonna introduce it, and again I'll throw it to you. But Emil Meek is 8.4K minus 165, and Bartosz Fabinski is 7.9K plus 145. So Mike, I'll throw it to you to introduce this fight, and then I'll pick up where you left off.
Sure. Well, this is another fight where a lot of the folks on Twitter are picking Fabinski. And what I like to do when there's a fighter who doesn't have much cage time in the UFC, I will go to their game logs. And did you have a chance to look at Fabinski's game logs for DraftKings? Just curious. He's got some very impressive game logs. He's put up 99 points in his previous fight, and then one before that, 121.5 points. Emil Meek, I was impressed with this win over Jordan Mine. I was impressed that he went the distance with Usman. I was impressed with his win over Rusumar Palhares in Venator. And man, this is going to be if Fabinski is able to get takedowns. Meek is coming off of the fight with Usman, right? So one thing I can't stress this enough. I don't think people take this into account when they're doing their tape. Well, a lot of people don't. Is the evolution of fighters in between fights. People do grow, and their skill set may not change dramatically. But we saw with Adesanya and a few other fighters, like people were on Tavares, but who expected the transformation from Adesanya, especially on the ground, in the clinch, etc. He was doing a great job. But getting back to the Meek Fabinski fight, I wonder if Meek has made some changes or adjustments in his game to help him out here. But when we talk about Fabinski, though, pressure fighter, closes the distance, has almost, it seems like an endless gas tank. His only losses are a sub and a decision. He's in his early 30s. He's going up against Meek, who also is an action fighter who likes to push the pace and seems he'll be there at the end of the fight. So I think this one does go the distance, but it's tough to make a pick here. I could see Meek being the aggressor and trying to outstrike Fabinski, but how is he going to do that when he has nowhere to have space to get these strikes off? So tough fight. I think we'll see a split decision in this one, but I don't feel comfortable making a pick on this fight. But if I had to, Fabinski would be my pick. I think I have a bad taste in my mouth with the Bermudez fight last week after all those takedowns. just like, if it depends on who we have scoring the fights. But oh man, if Fabinski is able to hold Meek down and land these takedowns at will, like Usman did. I know there are different levels to this game, but I could see that happening. What are your thoughts on the fight?
I'm going to be honest with you. The way that you just went through the breakdown, I could have swore you were going to pick Meek. And then by the end, you picked Fabinski. So you had me all – that's why I'm laughing now. I'm like, I had no idea where you were going. I was sure you were picking Meek at the beginning. I personally love Meek until I saw tape on Fabinski. And, I love Meek. You watch that Usman fight. And again, like you just mentioned, he had nowhere to really get his strikes off. Meek is a very good striker, and he's strong as hell. I mean, it's not like he doesn't have the strength to deal with somebody just trying to take him down continuously. Like, he's going to get up. The problem is Fabinski is so relentless in his pursuit of the takedown. He's very aggressive. He's a grappler. I mean, he fought Hector Urbina. November 2015. That's the other thing about Fabinski. You're talking about almost a 3-year layoff.
Yeah, due to injuries.
He hasn't fought in a long time.
It's not like he was coaching or had a different job or was in the service or something. He's been out. He's had scheduled fights, but he's had to pull out due to injury.
And again, he's a judo player, but what you see from him is really just aggressively going after the takedown. He's 2-0 in the UFC, but both guys he beat aren't in the UFC anymore.
All right. I have a question for you. If Meek is, if we're talking DraftKings here, is Meek going to be able to score highly, and how do you see that playing out from a DraftKings perspective? Just curious. If Meek's stuck on bottom, and he doesn't have room to get these strikes off, is he going to have to lay Fabinski out? Is that his path to victory? How is he going to pull this off?
I mean, I think that's what I struggled with. I don't think Meek is worth playing unless you think he's going to get a knockout in the first or second round.
Mm.
Because again, if Fabinski does have his way, Meek doesn't score much at all. Even if Fabinski has his way in the first round, right? That eliminates the 90-point knockout. So now you get to the second round. Meek could literally have 2 or 3 DraftKings points going into that second round. So now he gets the knockout in the second round. All right, yeah, he's probably scoring 80, maybe 90 points, but probably scoring 80 points at that point. I don't see him knocking Fabinski out. The guy is relentless with his takedowns. Meek's going to have maybe 2 or 3 chances this whole fight. Is he going to knock him out in those 2 or 3 chances? I just don't see it. I don't think he's worth playing. I think it's a very low-scoring fight, and I do think Fabinski, because of the risk of the takedown and the ground. I mean, he's heavy on top. When Fabinski gets on top of you, he doesn't let you up. So
yeah, and then those minutes just drop off the clock, and you're watching from a DraftKings perspective, thinking, wait, get up. We have to score some points here. What's going on?
And even to
be a frustrating fight to watch.
Build on what you just said before. You talked about the judges. I think it's clear if he's on top that he's going to win those rounds. But talk about the referees. Are they going to stand these guys up? If Meek is on bottom and throwing some strikes, because he will throw elbows, even against Usman on the bottom. He did hit him with some decent elbows. Are they going to stand these guys up if Fabinski's really just trying to hold him down because he doesn't like the elbows? So again, it's a tough fight. I think it's going to go to distance. You had mentioned that before. I agree. I would assume the line kind of indicates that this is going to go to the distance also. So if you're playing this, I think it's a cash game play. Maybe Fabinski and GPPs, but I think it's a cash game play. And I think it's safe from the big Fabinski standpoint. I don't know so much about the Meek. I'd rather have the savings in cash.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's get to Nick Hein and Damir Hadzovic. I don't have a great lean on this fight. I do like Hein. I'll just come out and say it. And I like Hein only more because I think we didn't see the best Nick Hein against Davi Ramos. Davi Ramos was pretty relentless with his ground game. Last time Nick Hein came back, I think Nick Hein was on like a 2-year layoff when he fought Davi Ramos. But again, Hein will go for takedowns. He couldn't do it in that Davi Ramos fight. Lots of decisions. If you look at Nick Hein up and down, lots of decisions. So I think this is more of a cash game play for me personally. Nick Hein does have that judo black belt. He kind of travels all over the place to try to get some coaching. I believe on the telecast they mentioned lots of kickboxing training. He went to Santa Monica, California, moved his whole family. But he had no answer for Ramos on the ground, which I don't think most people will. But I see this as kind of a low volume striking match. In his previous fight against, I'm going to butcher this name, Tai Hyung Bang, I believe was the fight. The first strike didn't happen until 63 seconds into the fight. They circled for 63 seconds. So I think Hein's going to try to take him down. I think if you watched film and saw what Alan Patrick did to Damir Hadzovic, I mean, the guy couldn't even get off the ground.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that that's the way that this fight's going to go. So there may be some takedowns, but I think for these two guys, I think it's going to be a low-scoring fight. What do you think, Mike?
Nick Hein, he's from Germany, so he'll have the crowd backing him up. He's an action hero in movies out there, and he's also has a judo background. His fights from a DraftKings perspective are typically low scoring. The Brazilian bomber, he's going to do his best to close the distance. That's the only way he's going to have success in this fight, is if he gets in close and tries to land something big. I do see if Nick Hein does win, it will be another low-scoring fight from my perspective. I don't see either fighter getting if someone is going to get knocked out, I think Nick Hein is the one that gets knocked out, because this Damir does pack a punch. But I'm not going to be playing much of either fighter in DraftKings, to be honest. I did watch tape on this. That Davi Ramos's victory over Nick Hein was a thing of beauty, and man, I think, you know what, the smart money, I think, says that Nick Hein wins a decision here, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm gonna go in picks. I'll go Nick Hein, but I don't think I'm gonna play it at all on DraftKings. Next fight,
we got a barn burner up next.
Yeah, I really do like this fight. Mark Diakiese versus Nasrat. Again, I'm gonna screw up this name. Haqparast, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
So Diakiese's 12-2, 3-2 in the UFC. I know he lost to Dan Hooker the last time out. I think he was 12-0 before he lost, right? Didn't he lose to Close and Hooker back to back? Was he 12-0?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
he's coming off of 2 losses, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Haqparast is 0-1 in the UFC. He lost to Marcin Held.
Yes.
I kind of think that this is just a clear fight where Diakiese is going to be better than Haqparast on the feet, and I don't think either one of these guys really want to go to the ground. I think what they want to do is they want to be on top. If there's going to be a takedown, they want to be on top. But I just don't think that either one of these guys really is looking to show off their BJJ game, to be honest with you. So again, I kind of like Diakiese, only because of his dynamic striking. Now Haqparast is dangerous. He I believe he fights out of Hamburg, Germany, which is he's as local as you can get. Left kick. He's left side dominant, left kick, left hand, and I think it's just too predictable. I think Diakiese is going to know what's coming. But Mike, what do you think?
He's almost like a mini clone of Kelvin Gastelum.
Yes, he looks just like him.
And he also fights from the same camp. He spends a lot of his time also out at Kings MMA with Rafael Cordero and the crew there. But he also spends time at TriStar. Haqparast is my sneaky play of the card. I'll say that right now. The line has dropped significantly on him. At one point, he was up to plus 255 where I hit it. But this is a tough fight. Mark Diakiese is a tremendous athlete. As we know, he's got the highlight reel knockouts going his way. But when he faces adversity, he can crumble and he can run out of gas. And Haqparast, he showed what he's made of when he was fighting Marcin Held. He hung with him on the ground. He was reversing Held. He was landing some strikes. He lost the fight, but
he dropped Held with a big left
He was
hand
also, I think
fight.
he was 19. I think he was 19 years old when he fought Held. Now he's 22, and Diakiese is 25 years old. Diakiese, he also, this is when we're talking about evolution of fighters. Who knows what he's really done between camps to address his deficiencies. So I understand why Diakiese is favored. He could outstrike Haqparast and win a decision. This fight could end inside the distance, but for 7,300,
7.3K,
yeah, 7,300. I'm gonna be heavily on Haqparast in this fight. I've been watching this kid since he first came up, and he's flown under the radar, especially that loss to Held. He has some limited cage time, but even just surviving 3 rounds on the ground on the bottom against Held as a 19-year-old, that was impressive to me. But he's got some lightning quick strikes. He does have an impressive ground game. Most of his wins come by TKO. We're talking about Haqparast here. And I think a lot of people are going to be impressed after this fight. This is the fight of the night candidate. I've got my eyes are going to be locked in on this. It's a shame I'll be driving to a birthday party probably during this fight, but I will definitely record it.
Now, Mike, what do you think because of the odds value, what do you think in terms of ownership, cash ownership, and GPP?
Oh man,
I mean, it's going to be high.
This fight, I suspect a lot of people are going to be on either fighter, more Diakiese, just because of when you watch his his highlight reel knockouts, he is impressive. But go back to his fight against Drakkar Klose. Go back to his fight against Frankie Perez. Even Frankie Perez was able to almost. Diakiese was wilting, and I suspect something like that may happen again in this fight. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with Haqparast. That's my take. But what are your thoughts on this fight? Do you think Diakiese gets it done?
I think Diakiese with his dynamic striking, I don't think either one of these guys really wants to take it to the ground. I think they want to stay on the feet and they want to exchange. I kind of like Diakiese. I think he's going to get the better of it. I think he's dynamic in terms of the spinning backhand punches, the spinning kicks that he throws off. I think he keeps distance because you just don't know what's coming. A lot of guys don't present any of that, right? They don't present the feint. They don't get you moving in one direction and going in another. Diakiese just kind of pulls that stuff out. Now you're absolutely right. I mean, he could gas.
And he does quit. We saw that in the last fight. I was shocked. But then also we know how good Hooker is now. That's
exactly.
The other thing.
I mean, I think Hooker is very, very – and I wasn't on Hooker. I was at the fight, the UFC Atlantic City fight against Jim Miller, so I was talking up Hooker and then didn't play him at all last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess that was. But again, I like Diakiese. So we're on opposite ends there. But again, I'm more excited about this fight after hearing you talk about it a little bit more. So next fight, I have a clear play here. So again, I'm going to go Danny Roberts and David Sawada. Danny Roberts is 9.4K minus 380, and Sawada is 6.8K plus 315. So I'll just throw it out there and then leave it to you. But I think Danny Roberts knocks this guy out. Zawada's from Germany. Most of his fights finish. And again, he's coming off a 5-fight win streak. So he's 16-3. This is his UFC debut. He's earned this fight. I believe he's stepping in for Alan Jouban, who pulled out, I guess, last week sometime. So this guy's coming in on about a week and a half notice. He's a high-volume striker. But the video that I was able to watch, the guy's name was Michael Mikowski. And he basically got rocked in the first round. He dropped his mouthpiece twice. He got hit so hard. I don't think that this guy is a UFC caliber fighter. He obviously wasn't going to get this fight. He's from Germany. He wasn't going to get this fight. He wasn't even going to be on the German card until they needed a short notice replacement. So I think Danny Roberts, not that I love him, he's been knocked out by Mike Perry and Nardine Talib. But he's 4-2. He does have 4 wins in the UFC, and I think he's going to get a knockout here of Sawada. I actually played, one of my props was for this not to go to decision. It was a big number, but I just think it's very, very safe. Mike, what do you think?
Well, Sawada is he's your home run threat here. He throws bombs. Danny Roberts knows they are coming. Roberts hung in there against heavy hitters before, so that fight against Mike Perry, I think, showed us a lot. He's pretty quick. His fight with Taleb, he did get caught early and finished. But to me, Danny Roberts is a more refined striker. He has more paths to victory. I understand the wide line, but Sawada, if he does land something big, he could end this early. He would have to confuse Roberts and get tricky to land something because he's not as quick as Roberts. So I wonder how he's going to pull that off if he does. But I'm going with Roberts here as well.
Yeah, and I really do like that fight to finish early.
One other thing. I expect Sawada to be pretty highly owned at 6,800. A lot of people are going to punt with him, but also you will see him in GPPs because of that home run threat. I'm gonna go out there and just say I just don't think it's a great play. I don't think he is a UFC caliber fighter. Yeah, and the other thing, Sawada, you're right. He's coming in on short notice, so you are probably not going to get 3 rounds out of him.
No, no, not at all. Which is why I really like the inside the distance prop for this to finish early. Now, this next fight, I'm going to introduce him and send it to you. I've watched more film on Stefan Struve than anybody else on this card, and I just don't know. I don't know how to play him. So I'll just introduce it as this. Marcin Tybura is 9K minus 240. Stefan Struve is 7.2K. He's plus 200. I'll say two things. I think this fight is going to finish, and I don't know why Stefan Struve, with an 84.5-inch reach, is not fighting behind his jab. I just don't understand why he doesn't fight behind the jab. So I'll throw it to you and let me know.
The last time we saw him fight behind his jab, he was successful when he fought Nogueira. You remember how effective he was?
I'll be honest with you, I did not. I did not watch that fight.
Okay, when he fought Nogueira, he had a pretty successful endeavor. So you've got Tybura, who is coming off of a brutal knockout loss to Derek Lewis, though he had some very dominant sequences in that fight.
He found probably himself up 2 rounds.
Oh yeah, he was. Just his transitions were incredible for a big guy, a 250-pound heavyweight. To be honest, this fight I think is a little bit closer than the odds suggest.
I agree with that also.
Stefan Struve, this is another fight where I'm thinking he got embarrassed by Arlovski and was taken down many times. And he must have left with his head between his tail because he's better than that. I think he's better than that. To me, I've seen this guy. I mean, people could say his win over Stipe was a fluke, but he's hung in there against some other high level fighters, and he's got a ground game. He does have the jab, doesn't use it. Someone's got to get through to him and tell him to fight to his strengths. But if Tybura gets inside, he knows the path to victory. Arlovski exploited that, and Volkov lit Struve up as well. So this fight, I think a lot of people may be shocked if Struve comes through. I see everyone on Tybura, but this isn't a fight that I'm going to go after heavily because I do think that Struve is going to use his distance in this fight. And we also saw they have mutual opponents. I know MMA math doesn't work, but Tybura also fought Arlovski, and that fight was a little bit closer than folks predicted as well. Everyone wrote Arlovski what do you think?
Arlovski, right?
Yeah, he did.
Arlovski. Was that a decision?
Yes. Yeah, I think a ton of people bet that fight inside the distance, and it went the distance.
I think Tybura fights smart. I do like the way he fights. I was very surprised. He basically had Derek Lewis mounted, right? And really wasn't able to do much damage. I was kind of surprised about that. I don't have a good feel about this fight. I feel like the line is off. You mentioned that. I feel like Struve doesn't go to decision. I feel like Tybura does. I feel like Struve kind of makes you not go to decision because he doesn't fight smart. He just doesn't use the jab. So you're able to kind of put him in whatever position you want to be in. So from that perspective, I basically said, all right, if Struve isn't going to dictate where the fight goes, Tybura is, let's find out where are the advantages. So I said in punching, I kind of like Struve better. In kicking, I kind of like Tybura better. I'm just breaking it down by what I see. In the clinch, I kind of like Tybura better. Again, Arlovski was able to trip him. I believe he tripped him 3 times in the first round, right? Wasn't he able to get Struve down 3 times in the first round? Takedowns.
A bunch of times.
Yeah, so with the trips, and then Tybura with the takedowns in the clinch and with the takedowns. I mean, he was able to get Derek Lewis down. And then on the ground, I know Tybura, will go for a sub, but I think Struve has a BJJ game. I think he can kind of throw a sub on you. So it's like, where is the advantage? Where is this fight going to go? If it stays on the feet, I think it may be Struve. If it goes to the ground, I think it could be Tybura. But then again, you have Struve with the BJJ, background. And again, you just mentioned the Volkov fight. Alexander, it took him a while to figure out Struve, I guess, because of the size. Volkov's very big too, right? Isn't he like 6'6" himself?
Yeah, it was a close fight early.
Yeah, it was a close fight early. Took a little bit of time, and then Struve just kind of he wilted real quick. Just kind of
see how good Volkov is.
He's very good. He is very good. If I knew that Struve was going to fight behind the jab, I would go with him. Just like I kind of felt, with Ledet, I kind of feel like he's going to fight behind the jab, keep his distance. But I think Tybura is going to be able to get him with the leg kicks, really, really knock him down to size, and then maybe get into the clinch and go for some takedowns.
Yeah, so, I know the fight we may see Tybura trying to go for takedowns. I also somehow I envision Struve landing a knee on Tybura while he's coming in. He does like to throw knees, and again, he also fights better in Europe, if I remember correctly. He seems to. I don't know if it's his awareness, self-awareness, or something, but he does seem to fight better when he's in Europe.
And you're talking about. And let me just do the math right here. You're talking about an 8-inch height advantage and a 6.5-inch reach advantage. And I believe Struve cuts to get down to 265, right? Where Tybura will probably weigh in at about 245, without an issue. So again, there's just so many, in terms of the dynamics of this fight, the skill level in this fight, there's so many things I'm uncomfortable with. I think if you look at the betting line, I think it's minus 190 to finish. The favorite is to finish minus 190.
Wow.
So
I actually can see this going the distance.
Yeah, I can too, which is why but I'm not. I don't think I'm comfortable playing it.
Yeah.
Which is the problem. Maybe a quarter unit or something like that. All right, I've talked too much about that fight, so let's talk about another fight here.
We got Lex Luthor up next.
Lex Luthor, Vitor Miranda. Against Abu Azatar. Azatar is 8.8K minus 190. Miranda is 7.4K plus 165. These guys, in my opinion, are very similar fighters. I'm not really sure who's going to have the advantage. The fight that I saw, I watched the Marvin Vettori fight, and Miranda, for most of that fight, I thought looked uncomfortable. He can be taken down, but I think he's just a low volume striker. He really wants to kind of fight at his pace. If Abu is smart, I think he's going to push the pace and really crowd Miranda. Don't let him use his skill level with his kicks. He has kicks to all levels, high kicks, body kicks.
He's actually a Brazilian kickboxer.
Yeah, he can, but again, he needs space to really be effective. So I think if you can crowd him, if Zatar is comfortable in doing that, I think he can get the best of him. His punches are wide. He throws a lot of hooks. Zatar, he shot a double leg takedown with a minute to go. He has good fight IQ, and I just noticed minute to go, he just went right for the hips, get that takedown, win the round. I like him. He has 8 straight wins. I just would like to know, is he kind of like with the last fight when we were talking about Struve? If I know Struve's going to fight behind the jab, I like him a whole lot more. If I know that Azatar is gonna really pressure Miranda, I like him a whole lot more. I'm just not convinced he's going to do that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
My take is, Miranda, he's actually 40 years old, so he's getting up there. He's coming off of losses. He's going into enemy territory. This is another hometown fighter. Azatar is from Germany or Morocco, one of those countries, but he also is...
he fights out of Germany.
Out of Germany, yeah. And he also, Azatar is coming up from 170 pounds. So he's packing on 15 pounds. Although, if you look at his previous fight card, the details, he has fought at 185 before. A few fights recently, though, he's been at 170. He's good on the feet and on the ground. He does have a well of energy. So from a DraftKings perspective, you can feel comfortable that he will score points for you. Miranda is dangerous early and does tend to fade throughout the fight. I heard a stat. I'm not sure if it was Will Martin, but somebody mentioned that, or maybe it was Adam Newsom, that he's 1-5. This is Miranda. He's 1-5 when fights go to decision. So just something to take into account if this fight goes the distance. But as I tear for 8,800, I know the line's been widening, so I understand where folks are going there. But again, this is his first UFC fight too, so we have to take that into consideration as well. This guy's never been under the bright lights before, so how is he going to react? Do you want to put your hard-earned money invested into someone like that? He may pay off because the general public has never heard of this guy. So that's another thing, another variable to take into consideration. But it should be an action-packed fight early. My pick is Azater TKO late, maybe third round. That's where I'm headed with this.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's going to go TKO or decision, but I do like Azater. And again, I understand why he's 1-5 in decisions, because I think he's a low volume striker. You know, he's an effective striker. He's a skilled striker. But I just think at the end of the fight, you know, you got Miranda, who just doesn't throw enough strikes to win the fight. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, and again, you mentioned he's 40 years old. You know what I mean? He has had shoulder surgery. I think he's been battling depression on one of the telecasts that I watched. So there's a lot of things that are question marks with him.
And then he's flying all the way across the world.
Yeah, against somebody who's
sleeping in their own bed at night. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and again, this is his first UFC fight, but he had a fight scheduled. He was supposed to fight Sayar.
Yeah, that would have been an awesome fight.
And that was canceled due to injury. But again, he had a fight scheduled already, so he's definitely a UFC caliber fighter.
We have the next fight. Folks are on both sides of the aisle. MMA Twitter.
And I'll tell you what, I'm a Jersey guy. Corey Anderson's from Jersey. He actually trains out of a couple gyms that are local. We saw him down at the Ring of Combat event, but I think this is a tough fight for him. So Glover Teixeira is 8.6K minus 165, and Corey Anderson is 7.6K plus 145. I'll give you my concern with Corey. He just doesn't seem – he's had a couple chances to get the big fight, and he doesn't seem to be able to win the big fight.
The Manuel fight is one of them.
The Manuel fight, the OSP fight, I mean, he was up 2 rounds. You know?
Yeah, he was walking away with that fight.
He was going to win that fight and got caught. I think he beats the guys that he's better than. And, you know, when he steps up, he lost to Shogun, he lost to Manuel, he lost to OSP. I was at the fight, the Patrick Cummins fight. That was in UFC Atlantic City. He looked very good in that fight. I mean, really destroyed Cummins everywhere on the ground. And Cummins is a wrestler. He basically beat him to the punch, and then was actually beat him on the ground. How comfortable will Corey Anderson be with Teixeira's striking? Teixeira, again, is 38 years old. You go back to that Alex Gustafsson fight. You know,
thank God he had time to recover from that.
Yeah, because, you know, Gustafsson really put a beating on him, but Gustafsson did a really good job of moving. I just don't know if Corey does that good of a job. I mean, he's going to have to exchange with him. I'm a little concerned. I think Teixeira is going to be able to get the best of him on the feet. And again, if Corey's going to try to take him down, get in the clinch and take him down, you got Glover who, you know, can mount you, get the back, and choke you out. So
yeah, his jiu-jitsu is very underrated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to be concerned for Corey, but go ahead. What do you think, Mike? You said Twitter is kind of split here.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually, to be honest, I'm a little shocked by that the line is continuing to tighten up. Teixeira is a much better striker than Anderson. I wonder when this fight, when the fight starts, Anderson's going to try to close the distance to land these takedowns, right? And after he does, we may see Anderson's probably thinking that he's going to be able to hold Glover down for multiple rounds and just pound on him. maybe get a few transitions and wear Teixeira out, who's 38 years old, coming into the end of his career. And Anderson's 10 years younger than him. But Anderson has a glass chin, and he has been brutally knocked out multiple times. In fact, Teixeira had that
2 years.
Yeah, Teixeira had that brutal loss to Gustafsson where he ate a ton of shots and was knocked out by the repeated uppercuts of Gustafsson. But Anderson was knocked out cold, stiff by OSP and Jimmy Manuwa in that same amount of time. And it only takes one to put Anderson out. You land one shot on the button and he is toast. So I'm rolling with Teixeira here. The only problem from a DraftKings perspective, everybody out there needs to realize that Teixeira is a low volume striker. So he's not going to wow you with combinations. Something to consider. But I think Teixeira takes this fight. 15 minutes. Anderson's going to have to survive 15 minutes. Teixeira only has to strike on him. At some point, I think that happens. The other thing, Ross Stefan, our buddy, he is a big fan of Corey Anderson, and he said in the past, this was actually before the Manuwa and OSP fights, that Corey Anderson is a DraftKings wet dream for DraftKings because he puts up a ton of points. We saw it in the Cummins fight, but we had seen that beforehand as well. He's going to land takedown after takedown after takedown, and he is going to use his cardio. One thing to consider also, I know he's got great cardio. He is coming in on short notice, but it's just something to be aware of. And Teixeira had a full fight camp too, and he was prepping for Latifi. So just something to consider. But this fight, I expect Corey Anderson to be highly owned from a DraftKings perspective.
And again, when you consider it, Corey Anderson would not be in this position if it weren't for, the late notice replacement. He wouldn't be every time he stepped up, he hasn't been able to pay off. And again, you talk about those two brutal knockouts. When it comes to Teixeira, even against Serkinov, when you're talking about, you just mentioned this price, the one thing I noticed is he never really got his hands going against Serkinov. He was able to clinch him up, grapple him for the takedown. He took his back. He had the rear naked choke attempt, and then basically, mounted him and finished him, with punches. But, when you look at that Serkinov fight, Teixeira never really got his hands going. So if he's going to take 2 or 3 minutes to just get into the fight, you're losing that possibility of a first-round knockout. So now you're not going to get the knockout to maybe the second or third rounds. I just don't know how that's going to pay off when you're talking about a low-volume striker.
I agree.
So, last fight of the night. We'll finish it off.
Main event.
Shogun Rua and Anthony Smith. Let me just ask you this, man. I don't want to put you on the spot, but were you surprised when you saw this line here?
We're talking about the fighter line or the fight goes the distance line.
I'm going to talk about the fighter line, Anthony, because I love the fight finishes inside the distance. There's no way this fight is going 5 rounds.
Yeah.
So I know you got it at a better price than I did, but
right.
Minus 240.
I hit the Shogun. Smith doesn't go the distance at minus 260. But my take on this fight, I'm a enormous Mauricio Shogun Rua fan. I've seen him fight live in Pride before. I've met him after the weigh-ins at the dessert table at Caesar's Palace with Team Shootebox, and it was amazing. It was like it's pretty cool because not many people were around, and really nice guy. Warrior. He's been through so many wars. I posted on Twitter, I posted a video of him fighting as a 16-year-old at a house party in Curitiba, Brazil. But his style hasn't changed. He's incredibly reckless and aggressive, and he puts fannies in the seats, so to speak. Everybody loves his fighting style. Anthony Smith, amazing dynamic striker looking to finish fights as well. These two guys are going to meet in the middle of the octagon, and if Shogun is smart, he will implement a wrestling heavy approach. Not many people are expecting this, but he has to know that he can't absorb a tremendous amount of damage. And he has the ability to wrestle. He took down Kevin Randleman and submitted him years ago. He can wrestle, and his jiu-jitsu is legitimate. But is Anthony Smith going to let him get into positions where Shogun is going to have an advantageous a spot to transition and to land a sub? My personal take is that Anthony Smith is going to knock out Shogun. As huge of a fan as I am of Shogun, that hurts me to say that. But I don't see Shogun surviving this. I think he's just too slow. I think he's lost a few steps. He's pulled out of a few fights recently due to injury, and his knees have been repaired so many times. Vellante gave him trouble, and Vellante, we know who Vellante is. Anthony Smith is riding a hot streak here, and he rarely gets knocked out. If you look at his just his record in general, he sustained a bunch of losses early in his career, and even the Marreta de Santos fight. Did you see how much damage he took? And he just kept coming. Even in the Santos fight, I think that was 2 fights ago. Yeah. What about the Lombard fight? This guy, especially I think at 205. I'm not saying he's an incredibly highly skilled fighter, but he's a dynamic striker, and speed kills. And at this stage in the game, I think Anthony Smith is much hungrier than Shogun. Shogun does have the heart of a lion. It kind of pains me to even process that he may get knocked out one more time, but I think that's what's going to happen. What's your take? I know I'm pretty impassioned about it. It hurts. No. I think what you said is exactly kind of how I feel. And again, I love the inside the distance line, because there's just no way Anthony Smith is going to fall on his sword, is basically what's going to happen. He's going to go in and push this pace and make Shogun either knock him out, or Anthony Smith is going to knock him out and exhaust Rua in the process. That's just, I just don't see how he's going to last 5 rounds in this fight. So I think that what Shogun has done over the last few years by basically fighting once, I believe he fought once in 2015, once in 2016, once in 2007. He's managing his career. Yeah, and people keep talking about this winning streak. I don't really, it is a winning streak, but I don't put too much stock into it. If you're coming off of a win a year and it takes you 3 years and then you have multiple fights canceled between them, you've been knocked off your bicycle as far as I'm concerned. It's kind of thrown off your timing. It's not like you're fighting every 6 months and you're getting back in there again. We're talking a 3-fight winning streak that dates back to 2015. Yeah. It's a long time ago. And again, I think that's what he's doing. He's managing his career. He's trying to prolong his career. He knows he can't do it every 4, 5, 6 months. I think he knows he can do one a year. So he's going to get that big payday one a year. I just don't see. And again, Anthony Smith is coming in on short notice, right? This fight was originally supposed to be with Ozdemir. Yes, I believe. Correct. And Mr. Smith was planning to be on the Nebraska card. Right. Yeah, Lincoln, Nebraska card. He was lobbying for a fight. But also, here's one other thing. Shogun or Anthony Smith is coming off of the win over Rashad Evans, where he took virtually no damage, and he had an entire training camp for a 205 fight where he was training. He knew Rashad's only chance was going to be to take him down. So he has his takedown defense, I don't want to say on point, but he must have stressed that as far as a camp goes. So if Shogun is going to win this fight, he is going to, in my opinion, have to take Anthony Smith down and that's his path to victory by subbing Smith out. I don't see him knocking Anthony Smith out in this fight. As hard as that is to fathom, that's my take on it. I might hedge with Shogun by sub, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
My concern with the sub and him taking him down is I think if there's any, remnants of a lingering knee injury, if there's anything not to trust about that, I think the last place he's going to want to be is on the ground. But again, who knows? I think Anthony Smith, I think he's very athletic, especially at 205. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage on him. And he's wiry. He can get up off the ground. Yeah, he's quick. Everything he does, his movements are all very quick. And that's why I think the pace is just going to be too much. But again, it's also why I think that this fight is going to finish. Obviously, I don't think it's going 5 rounds because I don't think that Rua can keep up with the pace that Anthony Smith is going to push.
Yeah. One other thing,
he's going to finish him.
I recommend everybody out there purchase SiriusXM for MMA Junkie. Was interviewing Anthony Smith a couple of days ago, and I listened to that interview while I was driving. And Anthony Smith actually said if Shogun's only chance is if he's smart, he's going to come to wrestle me. And he's got to know that, because if we stand, I'm the faster, hungrier fighter. And I know every fighter is going to say something like that, but even he, it's so transparent how this fight's gonna play out. I cannot wait. This fight, this main event is going to be spectacular.
And I tell you what, Anthony Smith does a good interview because I heard him on
Smart
James
guy.
Lynch. Yeah, he was on James Lynch before the fight with Rashad Evans, and just saying all the right things, talking about why he was moving up and everything.
I liked how he addressed the Cormier situation too.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mike,
because,
no, I was going to say we'll finish there, but I'm going to throw it to you one more time. I just want to get one more partner in here. betmma.tips. I believe you mentioned them earlier. I use them also. I don't track my bets, but I know you got a couple things on there, so I'll throw it back to you to say that. And I just wanted to thank Fight Night Picks. I was on his show. Mike, you should really do a show. He sent me a shirt. So, cool. You with your knowledge and his knowledge, you guys would really be able to shoot the breeze about fights. But just promote what you're doing and let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter.
Sure.
And what you're doing with the bets and stuff.
Sure. You'll find me. Vegas Isles is my DraftKings username. So I do post some head-to-head matchups out there. I also can be found at betmma.tips, Mike's MMA picks, and you can also find me on Capper Tech. I've been tracking my plays for a little over 3 years now, and this is a huge passion of mine. Been a fight fan since I was, 12 or 13 years old, and when the first UFC started, and ever since, just same passion as you, man. Just every fight, I've always invested, and I love talking fights on Twitter. It's a great place, great passionate people with the same interests. So grateful for that, and everybody out there who produces content. I have a huge amount of respect for you. So thank you for doing that as well. I don't have as much time as some people to do it, but I'm grateful to be here tonight with everybody. Thank you.
And Mike, again, I invite you all the time. Sometimes you're able to come on. This is the second time we've done it together. So I'm going to throw my free bet out there. And it's very similar to what we've already talked about. I got Rua Smith, fight doesn't go to decision. And Roberts Sawada, fight doesn't go to decision. And based on what we just said, you can get that play right now at -108. Both of those fights should finish. I think Roberts is gonna finish Sawada, but even based on what you just said, Sawada has that that knockout power. So you can throw those two fights together and get them parlayed at -108 right now. I think it's a great line, basically almost even money.